But, so sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm going to pop a Ricola in here, and I apologize for any clicking of it against my teeth while I talk. My name is Heath, and Jenny is going to be with us shortly, and we actually work for Apple. We work in the stores at the studio. Every store has an area called the studio, which is a place where you can go to learn more about Macs after you buy them, which is kind of cool. And don't worry, we're not here to sell computers today. Although I hope what we say might help those who are deciding. But we'll talk a little bit about how to make a podcast, what we're talking about today. And of course, if you have any questions about anything, just throw them at me. And if I have time to answer, I will. If not, I'll talk to you after the presentation, if that's cool with everyone. So we're going to be doing everything out of the box with what I'm going to show you. Everything that you see here comes with every Mac. So if you're podcasting on a PC, this might not help you so much, I'm sorry. But if you're podcasting on a Mac, you already have the ability to do this, chances are. So we're going to be using iLife. Is anyone here not familiar with iLife, or is that new? Okay. So what's that?
PC user.
PC user? Okay. So
the webcam takes
I read an interesting article that ironically those two actors, the PC guy's a Mac user and the Mac guy's a PC user. But anyways, iLife is included with every Mac. It's just a series of programs that allows you to do a lot of creative things, and the goal is to just make it easy for you. So you can definitely do much more advanced video editing or audio editing with big expensive programs. But if you just want to get up and running and you don't want to learn a whole lot, you got if it's more about the content, then you can really just jump right in about 15 minutes after starting the Mac for the first time. Oh, Jenny's joining us, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely smattering of love. So anyways, there's a couple programs that we're going to play with just a little bit. I know we don't have a lot of time. One is GarageBand, which is an audio recording program that comes with every Mac. It's super easy to use. It's really can be as good as you want it to be. Matthew Good did his last album with it, 9 Inch Nails. I don't know if they did some music with it, but you can actually download some of their tracks for GarageBand from their website. So it's a really powerful music-making program, but it also has presets for making podcasts built right in. And then for video podcasts, we're going to take a quick look at iMovie, which is a video editing program that you can import any videotape, or you can use the cool little iSight camera that's built into every notebook and most of the desktop. Whoa! That's like 70s or something. Okay, so so if you got one with an iSight, which any notebook has, you're up and running for a video podcast. And iMovie. And then the final one we're going to look at is iWeb, which is all about making a website without knowing how to make a website. It's all drag and drop. It has podcast stuff built in, so you don't have to, you might have heard people talk about RSS earlier today and technical stuff. It really, I honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it myself, and I don't have to. So that's pretty cool, I think. Jenny, would you like to show off GarageBand first, or should I show a little iMovie? I'll do iMovie.
Yeah,
okay,
let's do it. So Heath is going to talk a little bit about iMovie and how we got the content for the things we're talking about today. So really what Heath did was walk around with his iSight camera. We interviewed a few people and recorded it in iMovie, and these are the ways in iMovie to edit it down and share it so that it can be part of a podcast.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to open up iMovie right now, which this is iMovie. Now, of course, there's a lot more you can do with it, and but as a basic rule, as you record your clips, they just appear in here, and you just drag and drop them down here to put them in the order you want. You can trim them, you can add effects, but it's really just like mixing and matches cards on a table. And I've actually made a little episode down here. So here's a piece, here's a piece. I've got little transitions going on right here. But we'll just give this a quick play and see what we did. Now there's I played with some flashy effects, which are pretty cool that you can do in iMovie. And if you're interested in knowing more about them, I can definitely tell you about them right after the presentation.
Heath Milo.
And I'm Jenni Hayman.
And we're here with Apple doing our little podcast of podcast. So check it out.
We did this all today, we swear.
So I wanted to put music there, but I ran out of time. I'm sorry.
Alright, hey everybody. I'm here with Chris Brogan. Yes, Chris Brogan and Heath Milo. Hi Heath, how are you?
This is an Apple. I'm sitting here doing this on a Mac out of the box.
And I'm actually in the box. Well, I'm on the screen, and the screen came in the box. So, what are you doing today, Chris?
I'm going to talk a little bit about using internet video, and I happen to be a Mac user, so I'm going to show you how to use your iMovie and your built-in eyesight to do some video on the spot.
Sweet. Well, speaking of on the spot, we got to head over to that spot over there. So, join us in our next episode, which we'll probably show you in about 30 seconds.
So there's my little episode that I kind of put together real quick today. So that part is pretty straightforward. Any questions about iMovie specifically? If you're wondering quickly how we did those kind of opening effects, it's basically, if I go over here to themes, I've got these different categories. So I used reflection white, and then I can just choose any of these and drag and drop any photo or video clip into these squares, and it's done. So that's very fun stuff.
What file format are you uploading it
It can output to anything QuickTime supports. So it's got presets for iPod format. It's got presets for CD-ROM size, different levels of web streaming. Or if you know your formats, you can customize and go into expert settings. The way that you do that is, I'll just pause that. There's a share button at the top, and you'll get to know this share button a lot if you use a lot of iLife programs. It allows you to share your stuff. So I've made this video clip. Here's the different things that I could do. I can export to email, iDVD if I'm going to burn a DVD, GarageBand if I'm going to do some music stuff, iPod. But specifically, I'm going to use iWeb right now because I want to podcast this episode. I want to put it online, right? So the way I do that is I click iWeb, and I choose, do I want to share this as just a regular video clip on a website, or is it an episode of my video podcast? And it tells me right there, your movie will be compressed to blah, blah, blah. And I just hit share, and then it takes a couple minutes to compress it. And I won't do that right now, just because of the time constraints. But just like Emerald has one ready in the oven as he puts the one in, I've got it all popped up here.
This looks nice.
Yes. So bam, I made this website earlier today with iWeb. Just a quick tour of iWeb. The way it works is you basically just drag and drop stuff and move it around wherever you want. You can resize, and there's no HTML code anywhere in this program. As a matter of fact, if you like to use HTML code, this is not the best program for you because you can't use it. It's all drag and drop, which is, I think, very cool. So I got this image from the PodCamp website, and here's my page. And you can click up here to go to episodes. If you go to episodes, we actually made 3 episodes today. So the latest is first. Here's episode 3. You can scroll down. There's episode 2. There's the one we just watched. And you can actually, I don't know, if someone wants to subscribe to this, I've got the button built in. I didn't have to do anything. It's just there because I'm making a podcast, which I think is pretty cool. Now, when I want to upload this to the web, this is kind of the last thing, okay? So it's really easy to make my video. It's really easy to make my website. Now what? I want to share it. Well, you can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to talk about doing it with .Mac. .Mac is the only thing I'm going to talk about today that actually doesn't come in the box. However, I'm using a free 60-day trial, which does come in the box. So basically, .Mac is a service that Apple provides that gives you online space that's integrated into your Mac, so you don't have to know things about FTP uploading and stuff like that. Maybe that doesn't even mean anything to you. You don't have to know about it. You just have to know to hit this button, publish, when you want to put it online. And if anyone has a notebook in here, I hit that button earlier. If you go to web.mac.com/podcamp, you can actually go to this site right now and subscribe to this podcast. So, pretty cool. And I know that was a really quick whirlwind jump through the steps. Any questions about anything at all at this point? Ooh.
So is what you're discussing today, all this sort of package only comes on the iBook? Or what if, like, if I got a G4 or G5?
Yeah, well, good question. This comes with every new Mac across the board. whether you bought the entry level one, the pro one, whatever. If you have one that's like a couple years old or whatever, this is iLife 06 that we're working with. It's $89 if you want to buy the latest version if you have a notebook that's a couple years old. It'll pretty much run on anything G5 and the higher end G4 stuff. I don't know what the exact specs are. I think it's like 800 megahertz and up. Yeah.
So yes, desktops include, an iMac desktop has all this software and the camera and everything that we're talking. It doesn't have to be a laptop. The things that do not have the built-in camera are the Mac Pro, the big towers that we have, and the Mac Mini. So those are the two exceptions. Every other new computer that you were to purchase at Apple would have these things on board.
And the real goal here is you're going to probably, maybe already have, seen some people talk about more technical ways that give you maybe a little more freedom to do what you want. This is all about getting it up now. I've got this great idea. I want to do it today. You literally can do it today. We did 3 episodes this morning, which is pretty cool. And then as you grow, maybe you'll start to learn a little more about, you might want to invest in a microphone or a camera or whatever, but you don't have to do that right away. And I really think it's important that if you really want to get something out there, don't plan it for 2 years. Just, and I'm guilty of that myself. Just get it out there, because the results are just boom. You're gonna get people. Anyone who's ever posted a YouTube video that's got a little attention, it's a huge, pleasant surprise when you put that thing up and you don't even know that many people, and they're just boom, boom, boom. So it's pretty cool. So anyways, that's kind of the quick tour of how to do it with iMovie. I'm sorry, brain reset. And that's for video podcasts. Now, of course, if you're doing an audio podcast, which many of us are, the end result is the same. You still do it through iWeb, but we have a different program bundled with every Mac called GarageBand, which you may have heard about, which is all about editing audio. And Jenni's been doing something pretty cool this morning. We got a volunteer from one of the earlier presentations, and has Sonia...
Sonia Barnett's here. Thank you very
much.
Oh,
it's not Sonia. Was this you? Did you guys make
Well, we made a podcast episode. Yes, we did.
And did you? First podcast episode, which is pretty cool. So
we can swap computers.
Yeah, we're gonna. I hope there's no audio feedback. Give us 1 sec. We're gonna swap systems, and to kill time while we're doing that, I should have saved this for the question time. Okay, so yeah, throw any questions at me if you want while I switch this over.
No question over here.
Oh, cool. Hi.
Hi. I love the out-of-the-box concept, and of course I have a MacBook, but I'm just curious, if someone wanted to use a video camera, how simple is the interface to get your video from there into here?
Oh, that's a really great question. Basically, any camcorder that's mini DV is a totally safe bet. If it connects by FireWire, your Mac iMovie has presets built in to actually watch what you filmed on a tape. It'll import it into your computer, and it'll actually separate the clips based on each time you've stopped and started recording. So if you've recorded all your stuff on a camcorder and then want to bring it in, you can just quickly do that. Plug it in, press play, walk away for however long you had it taped, and you come back and you can mix and match your pieces. You can also plug the camcorder directly into your Mac and live record with iMovie, which is what we were doing with the iSight camera. You can also do it with a camcorder that's connected to the Mac. So, sure.
Heath, I hate to ask a dorky question, but how can I resize my window?
That's a good question.
Preferences.
All right.
Let's try that real quick.
Try that.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, and this happens on the Mac sometimes. I can't get to the bottom corner.
Who's got it?
That's not
There it goes. Sure. Good. Well, we can change the display size.
all right. Because I want you all to see all of the features of the podcast we do this time.
Sweet. Okay.
Super. So there's a picture of Sonia. Sonia graciously volunteered to be a guinea pig in this process. Actually, what Heath and I and our colleague Carl do at the Sherwood Garden Store is called ProCare. And it's exactly this. We sit down with customers one-on-one, an hour at a time, and talk about the software that they want to learn or be more creative with. In this case, Sonia has a great idea for a podcast. and just needs to know she has a Mac, and she needs to know what tools are available to her to make it happen. Even though she's not experienced with podcasting and likely doesn't know all the technical information to do it, we were able to launch GarageBand and get it happening. I'm just going to close this for a moment and show you. So when I open up GarageBand, I have a choice here, and in this case we chose a new podcast episode. And so when I do that, I'm just going to give it a quick title. I just want to show you how it looks before we got started. So there's some great presets in GarageBand for a podcast. There's a little module I can use, and it gives me a podcast track, which is for video or still photographs, and I can just drag and drop those things in there. If I happen to have a male voice or a female voice, these settings, the EQ settings on these different microphones will help the timbre of the voice. I have jingles here in GarageBand, so if I click on this little eyeball, I have a great collection of royalty-free, copyright-free, use them any way you like, with no repercussions from Apple, jingles. So I can just pick a category here, and I can put the broadcast news as a little opening to my podcast. So there's some super tools in GarageBand that are going to allow me to do the things that I'm going to show you we did with Sonia. Sonia's idea is she is a Toronto parent and a stay-at-home mom, but has very strong interests. She's an artist and creative interests, and is seeking a community, and we've talked a little bit about community today in other sessions, of other mothers who might be interested in the things that she's talking about, the creative ways that you can entertain your kids or share time with your kids in Toronto, and the ways you can keep your brain stimulated. I want to join her group. I was home with my kids for 9 years, and I'm a singer, so those two things, I really understand those things. And so we sat down and we thought about ways that we might be able to introduce that idea to a community, make a podcast. So this is what we came up with, and here we go.
Hi, my name is Sonia Barnett, and I'm talking to you live from PodCamp in Toronto with my friend Jenni from Apple, who's teaching me how to use this whole podcast phenomenon software. The whole reason behind my podcast is that I want to introduce to people in Toronto and maybe even outside the city cool things to do once you have a kid. Once you have a kid, you don't have to have your life come to an end, especially if you're a creative person and you want to still have friends and you want to still have a life, but you also want to include your child in that. You don't want to just drop them off at some kind of drop-in center and ignore that you have a child. So we're going to be talking about cool stuff around the city to do with your kids, as well as other things that interest me, like green living, graphic design, furniture design, and stuff like that.
And another little musical hit that is not playing for reasons I can't explain.
Now, one of the things that we want to talk about today is green living, and specifically green roofs. We're having a problem with our roof.
I'm just going to stop here just because time is short for us, and we really want to cover as much as we can. So in about 15 minutes or so, Sonia and I sat down. We talked about her ideas, tried to make a little plot, went and gathered some images from Google Image that might help enhance the podcast. So there is a bit of a workflow involved in every podcast that you do, and it never ever harms the speed at which you can do these podcasts to sit down and plot it out ahead of time, even to script out what you're going to say. Really makes your podcast and your editing process so much faster for you. And again, we talked in our other sessions, Jim Miles talked this morning about hosting is an option that you have to have with the podcast. If you want to get out to a community, get to the iTunes Music Store, get subscribers, you've got to have some kind of hosting service for this podcast. And in this case, in our case, we utilize the .Mac account, which is $139 a year, so you can do a bit of price shopping and decide what kind of features you're getting from your hosting service. In our case, the feature I love about .Mac, and that a lot of maybe consumer-based users are going to love about .Mac, is that in 3 minutes flat, I can change my website. I can put up a new podcast episode. I don't have to rely on my web hoster to get around to it. When he has time next week, I can do it myself. I run it myself, and I don't need to know what to do. In this case, with the podcast, if I hit my, actually that's over in iWeb, I'm going back over to iWeb. So I sent this one over to iWeb, as Heath did with his video podcast. And we'll open it up. with that share button from GarageBand, again, was a choice. So the podcast we did was more audio-based than video-based. We added some photographs into it. So I shared it over here to iWeb, and you can see that in the Mamacita podcast website, I have an archive, and I could have multiple episodes here. We just have one entry for today, the one that we did. But what I love about iWeb is this little button here. If I fill in this podcast information on this screen about this particular podcast and I publish it to .Mac, I can walk over to the iTunes Music Store podcast category, find out how to submit my podcast, and submit it. All the information that I put in here before I published it are all the requirements they need for the iTunes Music Store. They may sometimes review podcasts before they set them out as publicly available, but frequently it's in there within a couple of days of your sending your podcast to iTunes and saying, hey, I've got an interesting topic, would you like to show it?
The really cool thing too is that they're not judging how good it is. So you don't have to worry. If like you make it, if iTunes is going to check on it, they're checking for copyright infringement. So don't open with the Beatles. It's not going to last on there very long.
But fortunately, GarageBand has so many other options that I can't show you right now. But you can make your own music in GarageBand. You can hook up a keyboard. You can record yourself singing. You can put your guitar in there. You can use all the Apple loops and use all of your own music as part of your podcasting episodes. Then you don't have to sweat for a moment that you had any kind of copyright infringement. So this is actually how it looks in the, well, she's a little stretched because of our display options here. There's our photographs, our audio podcast.
Hi, my name is Sonia Barnett, and I'm talking to you live from podcast.
And that's Sonia's episode 1. All launched, ready to go. If I hit that publish button, it goes off to her .Mac account, and the rest of the world can share the kinds of things she's passionate about and start to build a community as we talk in other sessions today.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions about that?
What's the file size of the podcast and how many can you fit on the document?
A .Mac account gives you a gigabyte of space if you don't purchase extra. That's $139 a year for a gigabyte of space. If you start to do video podcasts, they can really add up, depending on the length of the video and that kind of thing. There are various types of file compressions that you can do to keep it as small as possible. If you're utilizing a .Mac account, you're probably going to have to keep your episodes fairly long, short in your archive. So you might only archive the last 5 episodes or something like that. But if you go, there are certainly options to go with a larger web host if you really have lengthy podcasts that you need to publish. So I wouldn't recommend it for very long, hour-long episodes of podcasts that you want to archive in multiple ways.
And iWeb will actually monitor how much space you're taking up. Jenny's got some other stuff going on with her iDisk right now. But yeah, like you can actually watch it and see, because some people when they do video podcasts, they put out a pretty high quality one, and other people, as small as possible. So you can kind of make that choice for yourself about what's the best way to go for you.
Do you have to be hosted on .Mac or on a Mac service to get listed in iTunes?
You have to be hosted somewhere. Your site has to be RSS enabled. So there are several ways. If you were to look in the iTunes Music Store in the podcast genre front page, down at the bottom, there's a super resource that will tell you all about how to get into the iTunes Music Store and what the technical requirements are.
Yeah, you can definitely do it without any Apple software except iTunes if you want. The idea behind iWeb and .Mac is it makes it all easy. Because if you want, iWeb will make a website that you don't even need .Mac to host, of course. But the podcasting specifically, all this integration with RSS and posting the artists and stuff, you will need .Mac to keep all that stuff just flowing easily, so you don't have to worry about it. But it's definitely possible to do without this stuff. I personally don't know how. I could learn it. I could learn it, but yeah, this solution came first. So.
Any more questions?
In terms of file size, any images that you import, do you have to have them set at a certain resolution, or when you import it, does it downgrade it to like 70 dpi or something?
When you bring it into GarageBand, it can be a whole bunch of mix of things. By the time you hit that share button in GarageBand, it takes the entire project and compresses it for them so that it will ideally stream on a web. So it does get compressed on the way. Larger is better if you've got the room on your computer to sort of build from large resolution. Your final compression is always going to look better. So, if you're going to use images, I wouldn't use 50 by 50 icon-size images. They'll look pixelated by the time you get to any sort of larger format.
Basically, it's putting the pictures into a special format. I don't know if you've seen on iTunes, if you're listening to an audio podcast, if the artist decides to add in photos like you've done here, you can actually watch those photos if you have an iPod with photo or video ability, or you can even watch them on iTunes. But you don't have to, you can just listen to it.
Yeah, luckily the podcast format typically is whatever you're doing to listen to a podcast or view a podcast, typically it's a small format idea, either on your computer screen or on your iPod. So the compression that happens is not going to make your resolution look. If I were going with a big projector or a widescreen television, I'm going to think starting out with much bigger resolution for my images.
This gentleman?
Yeah. Can you create a podcast on another website and then transfer it over to GarageBand and edit your podcast at GarageBand?
You could edit it, but if it's been like all kind of put together, you can't deconstruct those pieces. So you can bring any file into GarageBand and cut it up for what it is, but you can't remove the music from the vocals if they're already compressed together.
That being said, if you can bring the file into iMovie, extract the audio and video from each other, delete the audio, and start over again in GarageBand. So there are different ways of sort of moving through the software in here to get the job done.
Yeah, these programs kind of just jump around to each other, and you kind of move to the one that you need for whatever you're doing, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. This is specific to iMovie only because of the little bits that I've worked with it. It does automatically put it into different clips based on when you stop and start to record. Can you override that so that it doesn't break it up if you wanted to make something a longer clip? Is there a way in iMovie to do that?
Not that I'm aware of, but you could just drag them down next to each other and it would be the same thing.
I realize it's just that it's that now extra step of storyboarding that I wish I didn't have to do.
Off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that. Typically, a question like that, the answer is yes. There's a preference or something in iMovie that I can set so that it doesn't chunk up my video for me.
Start a new clip at each scene break.
There you go.
Super.
So just uncheck that box. That's another cool thing is all the settings are kind of in the same spot on each program, so you can look like you know what you're doing even if you don't.
That's very expert of you, Heath.
So we just have a couple minutes left, and so if you have any more questions, we're more than happy to answer. Okay, one more.
I wonder if you'd be so kind as just to run through the very first steps that we did again. Is that something that anyone else would want to see, or is that too repetitive?
The very first...
Record with your camera. Turn your camera.
Oh, like how did I record kind of thing?
Yeah.
Let's record.
One more time.
So let's say I'm going to make an episode right now. I go into iMovie, and...
And I turn on my eyesight camera.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're all hooked up. So if you click on eyesight in that choice right there, then you have that button that says record with eyesight, and you can just start recording.
Yeah. If I hit this record button.
Yeah, go for it. And you can see that we're recording, and it's also right up here building the clip.
So it's showing us a time march as we record.
Once we're done, you can stop, and we can play it back by just clicking on it. So here's what we made. You can see that we're recording, and it's also right up here, building the... Very trippy.
So it's as instance a bit of feedback as that. If you don't like how it turned out, erase, start over again. It's a really forgiving environment, and a really creative environment. We hope to get your ideas in there quickly and out and published quickly as well.
How is that on the draining of the battery when we're using that kind of power?
It's not ideal. It's a lot of energy is being taken because it's writing that information to the hard drive on the fly. And the moving of parts is the biggest drain on the battery. So plug in whenever you can. I'd say you could very safely get away with an hour and a half if you start full and turn your brightness down a couple notches.
Yeah, we've been going all day, and I haven't been able to charge my battery. So, and also these files are big, video files, and as soon as you combine audio, huge files, and they really require.
4-hour battery or 5-hour battery?
It's a 4-hour on the average. But if you're as soon as parts start moving, that drops down.
Yeah, and the good solution for that is buy a second battery and charge it up. So if you have to be on the fly, have a second battery available.
Is impression settings or whatever in terms of?
When I say send to iWeb, it automatically does, for podcasts, it does 30 frames per second, 320 by 240. It's a format that will play on an iPod.
So you only kind of do that at the save?
Yeah. But if you have very
step, you don't do it before you record?
No, it's the last step with iMovie. If you do want to do something different, you can choose QuickTime, and you can choose from anything that you want, and then you can import that into iMovie by dragging and dropping. And now we have all sorts of...
So did it export as a QuickTime movie?
Technically, yes, even though...
But it's not. Is it an MP4 still, or...?
It's an iPod. The clip that we exported is an iPod format clip, which is M4V? Yeah. So, yeah.
The audio that's on that, like the mic, because it sounds actually really, really well. So that's what's in your...
That's the built-in microphone.
That's what we're using on here, yeah.
And we're kind of surprised because some of the stuff we shot was in a very crowded room downstairs. I'm very pleasantly surprised at the quality we were able to achieve. If you're going to be more professionally podcast, add a more professional microphone. You'll be very pleased with the results.
If you got an extra $100, you can buy a
snowball
pretty good
microphone
snowball mic.
instead,
If you don't, you've got enough.
Yeah, I think, like just for everybody else, like just, because we do a lot of podcasting at a not-for-profit. Audio with your podcasting is gigantic, especially with the video. I find that the students who won't watch a video if the audio sounds horrible. So, and I know you guys say to do it out quickly, but honestly, to get the audience listening, if the audio is or you're too close to something, they won't listen.
Yeah, you lost a guy when you did that.
All right, we know you all have places to move on and other sessions to see. Thank you very much for joining us.
So one last thing, if you're interested in more of this, we do free workshops at all the Apple stores on this stuff. We do podcasting every week. You can grab one of our cards that has the website on it. So you can check out the free 1 hour.
We did bring some. We have cards that allow you to book a 1 hour appointment with somebody at the Apple store in Sherwood. So if anybody's interested in that, you can book it at your own time.
And yeah, the last thing, very last thing, sorry guys, is if it's worth $99 to you, you can actually buy ProCare, where you'll actually sit one-on-one with us an hour a week, and we'll teach you anything that Apple makes from iLife to Final Cut Pro, whatever you want. So it's a pretty awesome value. Thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.